Hello, everyone. I'm Felicia Rondo, and that's close over there.
Hello.
And we're here. We made it. It's the end of the Overpowered arc. It's issue 56 of IDW Sonic, the main series. And, last time, was not our favorite issue. But, now we're here, and, in the lead up to this issue's release, I was wondering how are things gonna resolve, and sure enough, we got the answer I was afraid we were gonna get. We were gonna get here. Not really.
Yeah.
It was yeah. So how do we do these again?
So this is the end of I guess, 5 issue arc
Yeah.
that started in 52,
Yes.
which was taking off after 50 and 51, which was taking off after Imposter Syndrome, the miniseries, which was also being tied into by the main series at the time.
There
So
sure was a lot building up to this.
it feels like it ought to be the culmination of everything that's happened, and
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons it doesn't feel that way. We'll get to some of them as we go. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
gosh.
I feel like this review might be a little short on the talking about the comic time, because there's it doesn't feel like a lot happened in this comic. So
So something regrettable about this comic is last issue 55, ended right before. Also, I'm at the tail end of a head cold, so
mhm.
apologies that I'm not at 100%, but I'm good enough to do this.
Yeah.
Um, but 55 ended with the prelude to a big fight between Surge and Sonic and Metal Sonic and Tails and Kit, and that fight is the entirety of this issue.
Yep.
The issue, there's like, I think maybe this is just very few pages after the fighting actually stops,
Mm-hmm.
and consequently, because fight scenes don't necessarily mean plot progression, and in this
Yeah.
case they definitely don't mean plot progression. What we get with this issue is a lot of fighting, but not actually a whole lot of anything happening story wise
Yeah.
or character wise.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think any progress happens with any of the characters in this comic.
No, which we'll talk about as we go. Unfortunately, it does seem that Surge and Kit are just going to kind of be in a holding pattern, I guess, until we see them next, or until someone thinks of a status quo for them that is sustainable, depending on if the status quo has been thought of or not, and depending on if there are even any plans for seeing them again.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So credits. I guess right. We do credits.
Yeah, and we also look at the cover.
We do look at the cover, right? So the cover A is by Jamal Peppers, who was a huge talent on Archie Sonic. Always brought in like amazing work there. So I I, I really have no explanation for why this is so bland. Um,
It's not a very good cover. And if you tilt your head about 90 degrees to the left so that you are seeing it properly, like because it's all tilted,
Mm-hmm.
like Battlefield Earth. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice Surge is like really, really low.
Yeah. And there's just it's just not a very dynamic cover. Like,
It also has basically nothing to do with the plot here. We're in a city for some reason. I don't know why.
aren't you glad that when they revealed this cover in 2002, it was so early into revealing it, that like we didn't spoil what would actually happen in the comic besides the surface level battle happening. Wow, we're in the place of tubes. Really glad I didn't have that spoiled to me.
It's so weird because like the covers come out with the solicits, and so we had known for as long as we could see this cover that this fight was going down in Starline's base.
Mhm.
So I don't know why we have a cityscape.
I also don't know why Eggman's got one foot in the air and he's like about to do like a punch in the air and
I guess he is very grandiosely telling Metal to attack.
Sonic's trying to jump over Surge. It looks like, and
Metal's gonna grab her.
Mel's gonna grab her, and then Surge's gonna fall the fuck on her face.
Yeah. The cover overall is just not impressed, and the more we look at it, it's the kind of cover that's like doesn't look good on the front face, and then the more you dig into the details, the more things you find that you don't like.
So yeah.
Yeah, cover's not always the best.
Hmm. So in the comic, it states that story and art is by Evan Stanley. I have it in the OBS scene here as writer, penciler, and inker because that's the workflow that one does when they're doing the all of the art.
Mm-hmm.
I just figure might as well give her all her credit.
Yeah.
And colors are just by Reggie Graham as far as we know. Lettering by Sean Lee, with editors Riley Farmer and David Marriott.
As always, for all those last three people.
Mm-hmm. And then we have the story so far page, which is mostly just last issue.
There's the cast page, which, as usual, is a collection of. It feels so often like they picked some of the worst art and the most classic art, and I don't know why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it doesn't take you long to flip past those and discover that within, on the very first page, what do you get but
A big old page of action happening.
yeah, very unclear accent. And there's a bunch of speed lines around. Oh, speed lines. We talked about those and how much we definitely love them. We don't.
Yeah.
While while Tails and Kit are just kind of in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to the second page, Kit tries to attack Sonic, but Tails. I don't know why he's done this like every single time it feels like he and Kit have fought, but he deflects Kit's water with his tails.
Yeah.
I don't know why this is a thing,
It
and I don't
doesn't
know why it's
look.
it's the
Yeah.
only move Tails has, and I don't know why Kit's water tentacles are so vulnerable to it.
Yeah.
Kit definitely, I think, is one of those characters whose power level fluctuates wildly depending on whether the writer needs them to be powerful right now or not.
Mm-hmm. Right now, it's the beginning of the issue, and we can't have the ending of this comic until the ending of this comic.
Yeah, so Kit has his attack easily deflected, and then when Tails says that he just doesn't want to fight, but won't let Kit hurt Sonic, Kit says nothing and then
Starts
crawls
leaving?
away. crawls
and
away like Dr. Octopus,
and then Tails is like, "Talk to me, please."
which I don't know why this happens.
Yeah, actually,
I I mean, I hope you know, I know why this happens. This happens because Tails and Kit continuing to fight and continuing to be in the thick of things would take away panels in time and space for the Surge versus Sonic and Metal Sonic fight, which is the main focus of the issue. And we already are really packed with that and don't have enough pages and panels, as we will talk about.
last time there was a fight between Tails and Kit and Sonic and Surge. It was a double issue, and there was also a fight with Starline and Eggman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
next
Surge and
page.
Kit disappear. No, sorry, Tails and Kit disappear from the comic for a little bit, so we
Yeah.
can just focus on the main attraction here.
Yeah. Surge complains about the fairness of the fight, or lack thereof. Sonic says he'd rather not get buzzsawed, so he's not going to lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, because he's trying to um, cut Sonic in half with the Pink Wisp power, but the Sonic's good buddy Metal Sonic is there to kick Surge in the face.
Maybe there's hope for him yet. Maybe he'll be good. Anyway.
Yeah, Sonic tells Metal to keep the pressure on, thinking they'll wear her down,
But Surge says no thanks, and she dodges
and
Sonic's
says
kick
surprise,
as she
and
dashes
she
to
runs
Eggman.
at Eggman, who is tiptoeing his way out of the room, as an evil genius does.
Yes.
He, in surprise, yells "Egad" as Metal rushes to save Eggman.
Mm-hmm.
Only for Surge to reveal that was her plan all along.
Mm-hmm.
And she sucker punches and clotheslines, but Metal grabs him by the ankle and then slams Metal into Sonic.
Yeah.
I guess Sonic had been moving, not that we saw it, but I guess Sonic was moving towards Eggman at
Mm-hmm.
some point off screen, off panel.
Yep.
There's there's a lot of just the action not being as clear as I would normally expect from an Evan Stanley drawn and written issue, unfortunately.
Then Sonic gets hit back, and Metal then deploys a shield of indeterminate shape.
That's his. It's like a prism. It was from like I think it's from like Sonic Adventure 2's Battle Mode or something.
It
The comic
doesn't.
really likes to use it.
It doesn't look right here to me. It's like a weird angle,
Yeah,
and so Surge's hand gets locked in the shield.
yeah, because he was holding on to Metal's ankle, so now her hand is stuck in the shield, and seems to be painful.
Mm-hmm.
Eggman declares that that's what she gets for underestimating the power of his brilliant creations.
But Surge says she doesn't, and she's got the best one yet. And
She
then
deploys the dynamo cades, and then it so she drains the barrier, and then Metal thumps to the ground, defeated looking a bit, but like
yeah,
this all happens in like one panel, and it's kind of unclear, especially given that in a few pages from now, it will be shown that like Metal apparently has been hurt enough by his shield being drained that he needs to be repaired.
mm-hmm.
And for it being such a big thing that affects the fight so much, with Metal being out of the fight now, I think for the rest of the fight even, it's weird that there's so little fanfare and so little attention given to this action.
Yeah,
Like a bunch of attention and fanfare was given to like Metal deploying the shield,
yeah,
but then like it just kind of disappears without any real fanfare.
yeah. And Surge says, now you're in for it, and then dashes toward Sonic.
Yeah.
And Sonic steps out of the way, it seems.
Yeah.
So,
So she rushes towards Sonic with the orange wisp power, and then we have on a page that's just a full page of art and no dialogue.
mm-hmm,
There's a boom. The tube canister filled with green
whatever.
liquid
Yeah.
that was behind Sonic is exploding, and we see in three triangle cut-in panels Sonic's eye, Sonic Sue, and Surge's eye, which I guess is there to indicate that
Mm-hmm.
Sonic dodged out of the way.
And then, boom, all the tubes get blowed up.
Yeah. Well, one of the tubes. I think there's still tubes that aren't blown up.
Mm-hmm. Sonic's like, oh boy, but then Eggman calls his attention and tells him that if he were Sonic, he'd get out of that water.
This is a fun little interaction. Eggman's honestly, I think, the only part of this comic that I consider to be kind of fun.
Yeah, Eggman, as Sonic remarks, that he may not be a great swimmer, but he's not going to drown in a puddle. And then,
Eggman starts to declare what he was trying to say when Surge electrifies the water, and Eggman grabs Sonic by the forehead and yanks him out of the water,
very fun drawing.
and then plops him down
Yeah.
on the rock that Eggman was hiding out on.
Eggman remarks that Sonic's sense of self-preservation is truly embarrassing, and mentions that the dino cage is going to overload any minute now with how she's using it. Keep her busy, and don't lose before he's got metal fixed.
Yeah, Sonic reacts to some shock and fear as more pink buzzsaws come for him.
Yeah.
And then we look at a two-toned Surge who is half using the pink spikes and half using green hover, as he is forcing more and more stuff out of the dynamo cage.
Saying, just you and me now. And, at long last, y'all, we're finally getting it. We're finally getting the thing I've been wanting this whole arc. Sonic acknowledging that he was kind of being a dick in issue 50, saying, "Look, Surge, I think we maybe gone off on the wrong foot." And then Surge has this really confusing comeback where she's like, "You know what? You're right. My foot should be on your throat."
Well, she's an edgy baby, so
Yeah, it's just not.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then she starts shooting lasers out of her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut back to Tails and Kit.
Which resolves
With
in one page because that's all we can afford for it.
yeah, honestly, don't. So very little happens with regards to Tails in this comic and Kit. It's just so. Tails Tails talks at Kit, who doesn't really respond at all, saying that he read through Starline's notes and that he's sorry, but says that it doesn't justify the things that Surge is doing, because she's hurting people and she's hurting herself. And Tails says that I think you know that's not okay. And and Kid is like poised with his tentacles all sharp and pointing at Tails, but then he puts his tentacles down,
Yeah.
and then Tails says thank you, and this says Sonic will fix this, count on it. While we don't see Kit's eyes at all.
Mm-hmm.
Then we cut back to the fight.
Sonic's like, what happened to you guys was seriously heinous. I get that now. Sonic is trying to emphasize to Surge how this is the biggest oof, and he definitely cares. And Surge says, you think that makes it better that we'll be friends? And then Sonic remarks, well, most of my buddies have tried to beat the stuffing out of me. which I don't think that's necessarily true.
Knuckles,
I mean, if you count
Shadow.
Sonic Heroes, where there's like boss fights with Team Sonic.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about like the so Knuckles, Shadow, Blaze, Silver, or did that occur in this timeline?
Fuck if
Sonic's
I know.
implied to have remembered it,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So we'll say yeah.
uh, and I'm only counting really four friends that I can think of that started out trying to attack Sonic.
Because Amy didn't try to attack Sonic, Cream didn't, the Team Chaos
Knuckles not a
didn't.
friend. I guess
Yeah,
Emerald can count.
I guess yes. That's okay. But so far, I count 5 friends who don't and 5 friends who do. Rouge didn't try to beat the stuffing out of Sonic. Well,
No.
if you count Sonic Battle,
Everyone was trying to attack each other in battle. That doesn't count.
yeah.
Anyway,
So Surge says that she doesn't want Sonic's pity or his friendship. She wants him gone, and Sonic asks why. Because Starlight's not here to make her do anything. Freedom is right there, waiting for her to take it. And in probably the most emotionally resonant panel, Surge just pauses and just says, "I can't," with this pained look in her eyes.
and I would just like to say, for the record, I really wish I could see this drawing. I
Yeah.
really wish I could make out this drawing, but unfortunately it's covered in this overbearing fucking rainbow.
Yeah.
In general, the color powers that Surge uses are very gaudy, very flashy, and for the most part, they're in big, colorful action scenes that don't really need a lot of subtlety.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the drawings are definitely drawn to reflect that. For example, when she's all orange and it's all like indistinct because she's covered in a big energy aura. But this particular panel is her, really tired, really worn out, really just at the end of everything. And I can barely fucking see it because there's just too much coloring on top.
Yeah.
I'd also just like to point out,
Mm-hmm.
um, just for me,
Mm-hmm.
um, the action that goes on during all of this dialogue, because there is constant action.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic is like running around the room as Surge throws various powers at him. He deflects a laser with a random piece of glass he finds.
Mm-hmm.
He does a jump off of the wall when she becomes a rocket and lands into the wall. Then she makes blue cubes that he starts to platform on.
That's weird. And then he
And
twists.
then
I
he
think he.
sprains his ankle, his bad ankle,
Yeah.
and then is hanging on to the cube. And I would just like to point out, Sonic spraining his ankle does not do anything in this comic.
Yeah.
You could maybe argue that it causes him to be on the cube when he falls off of it in the next page, but he was on these cubes anyway,
Yeah.
so I don't know why that was bothered to be had.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, after the emotional Surge saying "I can't" with her pained expression, she makes the cubes all disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And we have another page of really unclear action.
Sonic falls. Tails calls after him and starts flying toward him.
So we see Sonic falling. We see Tails flying after Sonic with Kit in the wings watching. We see Sonic fall into the water with Tails just like, I don't know, 2 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
And then Surge is, even though we just saw her perch on a wall, I guess she has at some point moved into the water and is now electrocuting the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's choking Sonic.
Yeah.
You might be wondering where Tails is. Me too.
It doesn't really come up until like a page or two. So
Because
you're
Tails
just
is
like
also
watching.
not there on the next page. Tails just suddenly is there two pages later to just help Sonic up. But like, it really, I am not used to having so many artistic critiques with an Evan Stanley drawn and written issue.
Yeah.
Because normally, Evan's accent is very clean. A lot of it's very inventive, very cool. Evan's accent often serves the story. But it really, really feels like there just was not sufficient time, like not sufficient pages and panels, and like this whole thing needed to be, scrapped and taken back to the drawing board and started over. And I get that just like you can't always do that there because you have deadlines. You don't have enough time. But just like so much of this is really, really rough, and it is unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
because it makes the whole thing feel almost all of this comic is the accent, and the accent is not a highlight.
Surge says that Sonic doesn't get it. And she monologues that she was built to live in Sonic's shadow. It's in her blood, her bones, her brain. There is no freedom for her, not while Sonic's still alive.
And as she chokes Sonic and electrifies Sonic at the same time, uh, there are these three triangle cut-ins that depict something or other. I can't tell what, because they are colored in such stark blue and white that they are basically impossible to interpret.
Mm-hmm.
But we see the dynamo cage shattering to pieces. The spikes on her headpiece go boom. The little glass parts go boom, and just overall, I don't like how any of this is colored.
Yeah.
It's the rainbow effect that's been on Surge more and more as he has just started using the color powers more and more. Kind of turns into just a bunch of splotchy colors by the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure what that's meant to represent, but it just looks indistinct and looks messy.
Then, after everything's broken, and we have Surge passing out and going face down in the water.
As all of the wisps escape, and we have this panel of Surge face down in the water, next to Sonic. One hand's kind of on Sonic's chest from when she'd just been choking him. Sonic, eyes very small from probably being electrified and soaked.
It's a very evocative panel, and then in next panel, it honestly looks like he's waking up from something.
I guess the idea is that he's meant to be not maybe conscious after the choking, but also it looks like he's coming out of the water when he is clearly head above water in the previous page, but then he gasps and wakes up and seems to be coming out of the water, and there seems to be
And
maybe even water coming from his mouth.
Surge is no longer coming. Is no longer face down.
Yeah, now she's face up, and the hand that was on Sonic is now on herself.
And she's now just further away from Sonic.
Yeah, it feels like as with several things, it feels like events occurred that were not on panel. Events that were relevant even. Anyway, the Cyan Wisp, it has concerns for Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
The blue wisp is just kind of nuzzling him.
Uh-huh.
The green and orange are holding each other, and the pink one also seems to have concerns for Sonic. Sonic looks over at the unconscious Surge, and then Tails finally sews up.
It probably would have extended the fight scene to have him try to stop Surge while she was strangling Sonic.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like if a lot of things were different, the if the energy that was coursing out just like kept Tails from being able to be close,
Mm-hmm.
that could have been a reason for him to not help.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate how much of this feels rust, and not in terms of when I say rust, I'm not talking about I am intimating things about the production of the comic.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the pacing of the comic itself,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like I'm not being given enough time with the story. I understand that the
Yeah.
words can have multiple meanings, and
Uh-huh.
so I want to be clear what I mean when I'm saying it feels rust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It feels like I am being rust through this comic.
Tails says, oh my gosh." Sonic's like, I take it back. That puddle's gnarly. And,
Eggman reappears with Metal Sonic apparently having been repaired from whatever you do to repair whatever Surge did to Metal Sonic.
he's slammed his wrench down on metal a few times, and now his health bar is replenished.
Yeah. He instructs Metal to collect the Dynamo Cage and the Tenrec. And
And
then Tails kind of confusingly remarks, "You cheater."
which is a bit of a silly line for this point in the fucking story.
I feel like that's not something you say when someone betrays you.
Yeah.
That's what you say when someone's being unfair in a sporting competition.
Yeah.
It doesn't really feel like it's appropriate for betrayal.
Sonic remarks that this wasn't the deal, and Eggman says it's not like you were gonna hold up your end of the bargain.
Metal russes at Sonic, who is very tired, and trying to protect Surge, only for the green fluids that are covering everything to go splawack into Metal. And we get a big ol' panel of dramaticness with Kit there.
And Eggman demands that Kid stay out of this, only for his foot and ankle to be caught in Kit's water tentacles.
Yeah. Sonic thanks Kit, saying that he's a lifesaver as Kit tangles up Eggman and Metal.
Mm-hmm.
But then Kit declares that he didn't do it for Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wraps up Tails and Sonic and Surge in his tentacles and pulls Surge close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he declares, "I know what's going on here. I've seen it before."
Mm-hmm.
And we get a full page of Kit doing a monologue.
Because he has had no dialogue for the rest of the comic.
Yep. So now it's time for the one time that Kit speaks.
Mm-hmm.
He declares, "Starline, Eggman, you're all the same. You don't need me or Surge. You want us."
Mm-hmm.
And then, unrelatedly seemingly, he says, "All that matters is what we can do. How you can change us so you can prove that your way is right." And then, going back to his initial point,
Mm-hmm.
says, "I'm going where I'm needed, and that's with Surge." And then moves on to a third point, saying, "I'll bury you all here along with our past." And he has his water tentacles and is also using the green fluid to make more water tentacles, and he's pulling down the whole of the chamber on top of everyone as he
But
ascends out of it with Surds.
But then, actually, his water reservoir is about to run out right now, and then he falls right back down because his water reservoir was just about to run out just right then.
No, don't worry. He stood in the green fluids, and he grabbed his handles and went whoop 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 whoop, so he's full.
Yeah, like in Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, that's my joke there. So I just want to spend a bit of time talking about what I do feel are just three separate points happening in this monologue that doesn't really come together.
Please do, because I've got nothing for this.
So with you don't need me or Surds, you want us, and I'm going where I'm needed, and that's with Surds. Kit's character is definitely one of he needs to be needed.
Yeah.
Um, he he cannot handle like not being needed. When like because his whole existence is just based around Surds
Mm-hmm.
and his entire self-worth comes from being needed by Surds. And if she didn't need him, like if he wasn't outright something that she needed to get by, he would probably start having a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when he was separated from Surds but did not know that she was allegedly dead, and he was hanging out with Sonic, he immediately tried to be needed by Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to be indispensable because that's the only way he knows how to live.
Yeah.
He's a very troubled and traumatized little child.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that particular point, I understand it,
Yeah.
and it matches with his character.
Yeah.
But let's talk about point number two.
All that matters is what we can do, how you can change us so you can prove that your way is right.
So this one is actually a little confused in and of itself in it just being one point.
Yeah.
So the all that matters is what we can do is presumably about them being seen as tools, but it's adjacent to Surge's point
Yeah.
from when she was being fucking proselytized at by Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like Kit's just here to talk about it because Surge is unconscious. And I guess we're supposed to take that he is, taking her perspective, which makes sense, I guess. But like, it's just kind of in here along with the parts where Kit is saying his deal about needing to be needed, and I don't know,
Yeah.
it's a bit weird. Like it's Surge's thing, and Surge is unconscious right now, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And then finally, he says that we'll bury them along with their past.
Mm-hmm.
Which, whatever.
Yeah.
This space never mattered. There was never going to be any more revelations anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because if there were, they would have happened in this story. So, yeah, sir, bring the house down, I guess. It's really just here so that there can be a big, impressive, oh, the creepy child is using his massive creepy child powers. Because now, Now that we're at the end of the comic, Kid
Yeah.
is ridiculously powerful and no one can stop him.
If only Tails could just get his propeller tails right up against the water pack, and
If
then
only if only Tails could just spin his tails.
and then negate all of
With
Kit's power.
I really just don't understand, like, there really has not been any amount of definition for Kit's limits or his weaknesses beyond a vague he can run out of water,
Yeah.
which is literally the kind of weakness that only comes up whenever a writer wants it to.
Yeah.
And you could generally say that about any weakness, but it's a bit different when it's like, oh, they only have so much energy. Oh, well, how much energy have they used? Let's say not enough that it will be a problem today. Oh,
Yeah.
and then it's and like you can just have water be nearby anytime you want Kit to not run out of water. And so like Kit doesn't really have effectively any kind of weakness or vulnerability in his power. It's just that sometimes his power is really ineffective for
Yeah.
plot reasons. Anyway,
In the next page, Tails says that they need to get out of there. Well, let's get out of here. And then Sonic says, "Don't have to tell me twice." And Eggman remarks on how melodramatic that all was.
yeah. And then he is running up while Metal is grabbing him by the butt and pushing him.
Yep. Then Tails gets his sweet little head hit by a big rock.
Yeah, he was about to carry Sonic out of there with flight, but then he gets some mild concussion. And then, but don't worry all, because Sonic is here to grab onto Tails and jump up with his left foot specifically. In a big leap with his left foot specifically.
Oh boy. Yep.
Telling Tails to hang on.
I've got this. But then Tails comes to, and
And it's because Sonic did not have it.
because he didn't have it, and he said, "We've got this."
Yeah, Tails, you grab that piece of metal covered in broken glass. I'm sure your very thin white gloves will save you from all of those glass shards. God, that is
Yeah, I was
so
just
dangerous looking.
And Sonic's like, "That was, which is probably my just long and short review of this comic.
Yeah, you could probably just take the panel of Tails and Sonic emerging from the rubble with Sonic saying, "That was
Tails
we are vaguely in mountainous region, I guess."
definitely still not a city skyline, but
Yeah.
Tails says, "Where's Eggman? You don't think?" And then Sonic, looking very disappointed that Eggman doesn't die, says, "Nope, I don't."
Yeah, Eggman kicks a vent off of some rubble, saying blah, and emerges out of the rubble with Metal Sonic. And once again has some of the only dialogue that is enjoyable in this comic. Telling Metal to call ahead to Imperial City because he wants a transport, a snack, and a hot bath waiting for him when he gets home. And he declares that he has some important sulking to do, but then he interrupts himself when he notices Sonic is right there. And nervously says, "What do you say that we keep that truce going, eh?"
Because Sonic and Tails are both looking at Eggman like,
Because he betrayed them.
I think
Like
we
they
were shown.
expected him to.
I think this panel got shown also. This Sonic and Tails, like ahead of the months ago.
Maybe.
But then Sonic is like, "Meh." And then he's like, fine, we need to get the wisp back anyway. Next time, Eggman. And that's a very literal next time, because next issue, we go back to Eggperial City, and
for some reason.
and at this point in the story, it very much feels like Sonic isn't loving life. Sonic isn't enjoying how these things keep going, and he's just tired of it all. And I gotta say, Sonic, relatable.
Yeah. So a problem here with this being the end of Overpowered and seemingly just the end of this introductory storyline for Surge and Kit is that neither of them get a resolution.
Yep.
Um, Surge, Surge passes out. Surge is unconscious by the end. So she really doesn't get to have any last words.
Yeah.
What she does get is basically her initial frustration at Sonic, her initial hatred of the fact that, she was just created to be a copy of him, not that that ever came up.
Yeah.
And like, we were already there. We were there by the end of Imposter Syndrome. We were there during issue 50. We were there the whole time she had the power dynamo.
Yep.
And with Kit, Kit leaving with an unconscious Surge is almost exactly identical to the end of issue 54.
Yep.
Where
It really
Surge
is.
is unconscious, he picks her up in his tentacles, tells Sonic and Tails that he doesn't like or trust them, and scurries off to somewhere else to help Surge recover.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is he also adds in trying to murder them, which, in fairness, he tried to leave and said not to follow, and then they did follow, so,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
try to make sure they don't follow again.
Yeah. And that's and with this ending, it's just kind of like we're here because for some reason we've been spending so many issues just emphasizing this character trait of Sonic's, where he's all about rehabilitating his foes, that isn't actually a character trait of Sonic's necessarily.
Yeah.
And once again,
It's certainly not something that Sonic goes on about, generally speaking.
yeah, he doesn't like killing people, but like he, it's the end of the comic. Overpowered
It's
is
the
over.
end of the comic, yeah.
This is the end of Overpowered. Next time we're going back to Imperial City. Some more issues will happen there, and eventually
And
maybe we'll even get a point for why we're in Imperial City. Who knows?
I just want to say, before when this was coming up, and it was being shown to us that we would be going back to Imperial City from the solicits of 57. I didn't know why. I didn't see the point, because nothing in 50 or 51 had done anything to make me feel like Imperial City was any threat beyond just being a regular old-fashioned Eggman base, like
Yeah.
any other.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've gotten to the end of this storyline. We've gotten to the end of what we're doing with Surge and Kit for now. We've reached the point where Eggman's going back to Imperial City to sulk in a hot bath.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are we going there? What's the point?
From what I've gathered, Imperial City is like expanding.
Yeah, the solicits have given us some vague things of like there will be a thing that prompts them to go there, but like just from a from a reader experience point of view, why are we making the decision, writing wise, to go back to Imperial City after we just finished this long, kind of drawn out? Honestly, I don't know why we spent 5 issues on this. Surge having a big weird hat.
I'm just sitting here, just looking at Overpowered and Battle for the Empire and everything you've been doing since issue 49, and I'm wondering, why are we spending precious time in the comic belaboring why Sonic fights Eggman and why it keeps happening the same way? Just the nature of a licensed comic book where things are going to go cyclically, and
Mm-hmm.
and
Or not even a licensed comic book. Just like thing is, when it comes to serialized comic storytelling, you have to put out an issue every month.
yeah,
And what that means is like you have to keep your villains around because you can't keep making brand new villains every time. A lot of them are going to be bad if you do that.
yeah.
You have to make villains who are compelling and interesting, and you have to keep doing stories with them because that's how you're going to get interesting stories is with villains who like actually have any depth to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you don't typically kill your. That's one of the reasons you don't typically kill your villains off in a comic book. You know, a monthly book is you need them. You need them for storytelling.
And there's like a layer of like meta commentary here with like, oh, you're all the same because you're all doing the thing you're doing over and over, and like it's just this really baby's first like, oh, I see through the shallow moors of this Sonic the Hedgehog comic series. You know what's gonna happen next, Sonic, is you're gonna fight Eggman again. And Eggman, you're gonna fight Sonic
Sonic, you
again.
claim that you're for peace, but then why do you always put Eggman in Arkham Asylum instead of killing him?
And I just look at this from the perspective of someone who likes reading Sonic comics, and I'm like, why are we arguing against Sonic comics?
Yeah,
This all just feels like one big, why are we doing this? And I look at this and I think, if you're asking the question, why are we here? Why do you make this the comic?
mm-hmm.
Kit and Surge are angry at Sonic for giving Surge a no good, very bad day in issue 50, basically. And also just.
I mean, like the initial grudge isn't even that, and she's not even angry about that. It seems.
Actually, we should probably talk about how, like. How it's like bringing up the whole like, oh, she was created to kill Sonic, but like in issue 50 she was very much choosing to fight Sonic in spite of that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because she talks about how it's in her blood, it's in her
It's
bones,
in her brain.
it's in her brain, and like I feel like it would have helped if the story coming before this had established it being in her brain.
But
Like,
like in issue
does she actually have subliminal programming making her need to kill Sonic? Has this come up? I feel like I would have noticed it.
like there were in issue 3 of Imposter Syndrome, there were the sessions where Starling just tells her that she wants to kill Sonic or whatever. But like it doesn't really come up because in issue 50 she just thinks Sonic's a dick and she hates him and Starline and Eggman. But like,
And I mean, well, the thing is, I remember at the end of Imposter Syndrome, like she looks at the like they look at the sessions,
mhm,
Serge and Kit,
yeah,
and they learn that they have been manipulated in that way.
yeah,
And then Serge makes a decision she decides that she wants to burn everything down. She wants to destroy everything, because she feels like at this point everybody is her enemy, or
Yeah.
whatever. It's very hurt child.
And like,
And I don't think there's any point, either in Ian's stories or in Evan's stories leading up to this, featuring Sirs, where it seems to be implied that, you know, the mental conditioning is, at the very least, something she acknowledges as being part of her reason. Like, because here's the thing, I can totally believe that the mental conditioning led to her making the decision to still kill Sonic, but I super don't believe that Surge would acknowledge that.
mm-hmm.
She's incredibly willful. She's very, like, just, an edgy teen. I do not I do
Mm-hmm.
not buy that she would, like, look at her decision on her own to kill Sonic but also everyone, and realize that in fact it is still her playing into Starline's hand,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because she wouldn't she wouldn't want to acknowledge that and let Starline win, that her decision she made for herself was still ultimately part of his programming.
Mm-hmm.
And since there was no part where I see her acknowledging that or admitting that at any point that I can remember, it makes the line feel off.
Yeah. Jesus, this is just so. I don't know why we're here. I don't know why we were talking about this before the review started, and we were talking, and I think we came to the conclusion, like, this story probably would have been better if the Dynamo Cage wasn't even here. I mean, it would have been shorter at least.
So, a point I brought up is that if you removed the Dynamo Cades, you could have ended the story at issue 54 and nothing of value would be lost.
And I think that would have made it better because I liked issue 54.
Yeah.
Issue 54 was a good comic, and so was issue 53. But these last
50,
two.
55 did very little other than let Sonic and Tails and Eggman know about the secret origins of Surge and Kit.
Yeah.
Which I guess it was important for the overall stuff that they know that, so that it affects their interactions whenever Surge and Kit show up again.
I just look at that, and here's a big
Yeah?
thing for me. I look at that, and it feels like what it's implying is that, oh, if Sonic knew, if Sonic knew the truth, obviously he would have handled things better. It would have handled things differently, and things would have been better in issue 50. But like the thing is, regardless of whether you know or not, you should never treat someone the way Sonic treated Surge in issue 50.
Yeah. Like, he was being a massive grade A asshole. And I mean, an unfortunate thing is that we have a conflict that starts with one writer and ends with another, and unfortunately it just doesn't equal out to Sonic feeling very repentant.
Yeah, like,
Sonic looks guilty a bit, and he comes, I think, halfway to apologizing in this issue.
but like, he still doesn't quite, because he goes back to like, oh, freedom is right there, and like, and the story moves on. But like, Sonic, Sonic should be sorry. Sonic should be sorry about what a dick he was. Sonic should be sorry that he did that to just an abuse survivor. He should be sorry he did that to anyone. Anyone who gets
Yeah.
talked that way should be apologized to sincerely and deeply. And Sonic, just he should be more sorry. He should be doing
Yeah.
more. It just, but like, the worst, the worst part of what Sonic did, he did alone, because he after he thought Surge died, he was like, that's the problem with giving people a choice. Some people make the wrong ones. And at that point, that is revealing something really dark and really, truly, morally abhorrent in Sonic Soul that never gets dealt with here.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately what it is just city writing. But,
It's shitty writing, but like, there's so much fucking finger pointing at Sonic and so much like just belaboring the cycle of things that like
I think an honest problem with this whole storyline, and I'm not just talking overpowered, because let's be honest, this storyline didn't start in 52.
no.
This storyline is not a 5-issue arc called Overpowered.
No, it's not.
This storyline started in Imposter Syndrome number 1. It was 49 was a part of this,
Mm-hmm.
and between with the whole of Imposter Syndrome and from 49 to now, this has all been one story that I assume, because Surge and Kit are probably not going to show up soon again, I guess it's probably done at this point, this storyline.
Yeah.
And if you look at all of this, you look at everything that's come, you look at Imposter Syndrome, you look at 50, you look at 51, for all it did. You look at the overpowered storyline named so on Evan Stanley's Tumblr and
Yep.
nowhere else apparently.
Comics don't have storyline names put on the page anymore.
Not in Sonic comics anyway.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Remember title pages? Those were great.
Those are still in other comics.
Yeah,
Just not in Sonic comics.
plenty of comics that just have the title page and the credits there.
You know the that first page with the big full page fight page. I
Yeah,
said page a lot. That could have had the credits, like a logo for the story. Because there was so much it could have done, and instead it's just kind of like a blank page.
yeah.
But just yeah, this I really hate to say this, but this wasn't a good comic.
It wasn't. This, I think, I feel safe saying this is the worst Evan Stanley issue on IDW that I have read.
For me, I tend to feel like maybe 55 is worse, but like 56 definitely is just second worst at the least for me.
For 55, I still enjoyed a number of different character moments. The pacing, I think, was much better. I had, even as I did have problems with the art and the
Surge
the
being a
pacing of the
junkie.
panels and that. Um, I feel like overall the action flowed better in 55 because again it is just uncharacteristically unclear for an Evan Stanley comic here,
It just
and for an issue that's all about this one big fight scene, which also is a problem for me because I don't want a comic that's all about one big fight scene.
yeah, and I just look at this as we're at the end and like I wonder, was it destined to just be this bad? Was it always going to just suck this hard? And like I don't think so. Like
I mean, one thing that I know is that Surge and Kit aren't Evan's characters.
they're not.
These are characters that Ian himself had planned, and in fact, apparently, he had thought up from the beginning of when he had thought up Starline, and he wanted to do these characters, and ultimately, those characters in the good old year of last year mostly, they became Surds and Kit, and
Yeah. And
I don't know how much you know he wanted their first storyline to end in a specific way. I don't know at all. But this whole ending is just so unsatisfactory
yeah.
because nothing actually gets resolved. I feel like we keep belaboring this point, but it's like it's hard to talk about anything else when the comic doesn't end on a point.
It doesn't. I mean, it ends on Kit's monologue as far as like the point of it all goes, and it's not a good point being made because Kit is a
I mean,
very confused child.
so a big problem with every line of dialogue that is actually plot relevant
Mm-hmm.
is that I feel like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like every plot relevant piece of dialogue is just rehashing something or some or the other from an earlier issue in this storyline.
Probably, yeah. It. Oh my god.
Kit talking about how he needs to be needed. We've gone over this with the character. The whole, oh, you're just trying to manipulate us into being good. That was Surge's thing from earlier. Honestly, the whole, burying their past, like, I feel like that was gone over in Imposter Syndrome, how they, like, this is just Surge wanting to burn it all down. There he is, he's burning it all down.
Yeah.
He's doing what Surge wanted. And, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like anything new happens here.
It just takes the fucking. It just takes Surgeon Kit out of the story so we can move on to whatever anyone wants to do in Imperial City. I have no idea what we're going to accomplish there besides, I guess, begrudgingly trudge through whatever is planned for Tangle and Whisper.
Yeah. With, I guess, with how little there is to talk about, because there's not a whole lot of plot, and most of it just feels like it's retreading previous things we already knew about.
I'm assuming there's going to be like another time skip between this issue and next issue.
I mean, depends on how fast Bell can fix a variable with them.
Yep.
So next month we are going back to Ian Flynn,
Mm-hmm.
which think I feel safe to say that we have mixed feelings about,
Um,
for a couple of reasons. If I might explain my reasoning,
you go ahead. Yeah.
because on the one hand, last time we saw Ian was 1551. That was terrible.
Mm.
On the other hand, this is featuring Tangle and Whisper, and the Tangle Whisper miniseries was very good, and there was like a small part in Zeddy Hunt where Tangle and Whisper were featured, which was like the only good part, by your estimation, of that
Yeah.
entire terrible storyline.
It was a legitimately solid part of characterization that like makes use of the comic format, and it was just like good in multiple ways, and is fitting for someone with Ian's experience in comic books, and which
Yeah.
kind of makes it sad that he doesn't really reach that level of quality else otherwise.
But then, on the other hand, we're going back to Imperial City, which was the setting of 50 and 51, and it was a miserable slog.
Yeah.
Then, on the other hand, again, it's only, I believe, was it 2 issues?
2 issues of Ian, and what's the worst Ian could do with just 2 issues? I said, looking forward to issue 1551.
It's 2 issues, and then I think Evan starts also being in Imperial City for some
Yeah, from
reason.
59 to she said she does 59 to 61, I think.
And if it's her doing 3 consecutive issues, I assume they're all in Imperial City, probably.
Probably, yeah.
I don't know why we're going to Imperial City. I'm probably going to harp on this point a lot too. I find that I harp on points a lot that are the same point.
But in fairness, this comic keeps doing the same fucking thing over and over.
Nothing 50 and 51 did made me feel like Imperial City was a threat, was important, or should have been paid attention to, which makes us going back to it now feel really out of left field.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that they're going to give an explanation in the comic, but you had an opportunity. There was plenty of opportunity. 51 did nothing.
Yep.
Why did 51 not cover? Because 52 was busy with A, actually escaping the city, B, giving Surge the dynamo cage, for all worth that was in the story,
Yeah.
and then, actually setting up the overpowered arc.
I guess all the Dynamo Cage serves to do is it establishes yet more pain onto Whisper for Tangle to work through in the next couple issues.
I mean, overall, I feel like the main thing the Dynamo Cage did is that it made Surge enough of a threat that Sonic had to team up with Eggman.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be perfectly honest, if there were less characters involved in this fight, maybe it could have been paced better.
Maybe.
Personally, I'm not excited seeing Metal Sonic fight Surge because I don't care.
Yeah. Honestly, basically everything that's happened with everything that's happened with Metal, like in IDW Sonic, has just been really dulled ever since Reflections was really good.
Yeah.
It's just been like, wow, but what if Metal was good? And I'm like, you do know he's like a boss battle character in video games, right? Like, he's not gonna be good ever. So why are we wasting time on this? And
What if Metal used his barrier?
here goes me.
Wow. He used his barrier.
Here goes me harping on a point I've made multiple times, or probably, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I this comic really didn't need to harp on, or just like, it didn't need to argue at me why I'm even reading it, because this whole comic feels like it's arguing to me that I shouldn't be reading it. It's emphasizing how cyclical it is. It's emphasizing how nothing changes. It is very much just making it impossible to ignore just how stale things have been for multiple issues, and like I really didn't want it to be like this, especially today. I just it just kind of yesterday I got a Sonic fan harassing me again,
Yeah.
and I was already not feeling great about Sonic at that night, and it was not good what was said to me.
Yeah.
And I really would have liked for this comic to have like reaffirmed why I was even bothering with these comics, and it really didn't. So that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, next issue, it's Tangle and Whisper. Ian's done some good work with Tangle and Whisper, and I honestly don't know how to be excited about this comic right now.
Yeah. I mean, 2 issues in a row that we didn't feel great about, a miniseries going on that I think is terrible,
Yeah.
and then the comic on a trajectory back to a location that is basically entirely meaningless to me.
What the fuck am I
All,
supposed to look forward to?
yeah, it all just kind of builds up to, it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
We basically started reviewing this comic at the end of what, for the most part, was a really good run.
Yeah, we actually like started right as Trial by Fire was like ending.
Yeah, because like Evan Stanley came in strong with Crab, and then Test Run, and and then there was Trial by Fire, and then we've been having a lot of things that are middling or just okay or have had potential that gets squandered and like
Hmm.
we enjoyed 52, 53, 54, and then 55 and 56 came along. We were enjoying Imposter Syndrome, and then 50 came along.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm being rewarded for keeping up with the comic right now.
Yeah.
These issues feel like they would have played better if I had more issues afterward to just kind of jump right into and then go through.
Yeah, it would be great if there was something to distract us and make us forget that we'd read these issues and
Mm-hmm.
instead focus on a different story, basically.
Yeah. Um, and also just on the point of not feeling rewarded for keeping up with the comic, as we keep up with this comic monthly, like some of these comics in isolation, like when you finish reading them and there's comics coming up afterward, it's like, oh, maybe this will be good. And as of issue 53 and 54, I legitimately thought, you know what? Evan's got this. This is gonna turn out okay. But it just didn't, and I got my hopes up because I was reading those two issues and I was enjoying them, and I had like months of building expectations with those, and then we had this.
Yeah.
So
55 and 56 are not issues that are probably going to be come back to any degree. With how little happens in them, they can definitely be safely skipped, I think,
honestly,
because
yeah. Mhm.
I mean the writing was pretty on the wall for how it was likely to end, and what do you know? Surge had her hat explode, became unconscious, and Kit picked her up and ran away.
Mhm. Her hat exploded like Eggman said it would earlier in the comic.
Yeah, and then they left just like they left before. And then
Yep.
the story was over, so everyone just kind of went home and had nothing else to say to anyone.
Mhm.
And we last see Surge and Kit as Kit is like ascending, I guess, out of the skylight,
Uh huh.
and then that's it. We just focus on Sonic, and
Mhm.
Sonic was not the point of this story.
No. Yeah.
This was not a story that was about Sonic.
Mhm.
And I remember with 54, we ended that on Surge and Kit at the base, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we did because they retreated and Surge had like another evil gay ghost trauma time, and then there was that really kind of meaningful like kid hugging Surge and bring her out of it.
Yeah. And then she plays off how much she does care about him, uh, and then they have just an emotional time. And like without even getting just like I don't know, just a panel of Kit running away, holding Surge, or at a vague location with her unconscious and him looking after her or anything. It just feels, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is the ending of their opening time they are here. I can't really call it an arc, can I?
No. No.
An arc would imply that character development happened by the end.
I forget who said this, but when it comes to like storytelling, you kind of gotta have like a really strong beginning and a really strong ending. And for me anyway, that's definitely held true with the stories I've experienced. Like just because if a story has a bad beginning, it can kind of spoil the rest of it. If it has a bad ending, that can make even the good parts in the middle feel like not so good.
Yeah, a bad ending in particular
Mm-hmm.
can really sour a story because, I mean, that's what it's all culminating towards.
Yeah.
People can handle sour middles
Mm-hmm.
a lot easier if they know that there's an ending coming that is good.
Yeah.
And this story had, with starting with imposter syndrome, we were intrigued, we were interested, we
Yeah.
wanted to see where it went.
We were surprised.
Yeah, and then we started to get a very sour middle with issue 50,
Mm-hmm.
but then the middle sweetened up a bit when we started in this overpowered storyline.
And now we're
But
back here.
yeah,
What are we doing? I don't. I'm not happy about how this went. I'm just not happy
it
about it.
I just don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you have an ending like this that has so little going on,
Yeah.
it just, what was the point? Why did we spend all this time with Surge and Kit? Why did we do so many issues with them if ultimately they weren't actually going to progress their characters?
These comics get plotted out and like these storylines get figured out like well in advance.
Yeah,
So I feel like they had to have been able to see how this all goes, and I just don't know why they would see all that and be like, "Yup, let's do this for the next year."
and here's the thing.
Mm.
We don't know what is going to come next from Surge and Kit, but I do know that if they return any point soon, that'll feel even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because we just spent so much fucking time with them. We can't have more time with them.
Yeah.
We've already had 2 months for no payoff. And like when they do come back, they're just gonna be like whatever story has them next is going to have to bring them to a different status quo on its own at its beginning
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't really been brought to a status quo now.
Yeah.
There's they're just vaguely in exactly the place they just were, which is awkward because the place they just were is Surge really intensely wants to kill everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And like I feel like it was kind of imperative on this storyline to chill Surge out.
And it didn't do that at all. So we're here.
Yeah.
It's the end of the comic, and we really just don't have much good of anything to say.
It feels like the creative team going on here really wrote themselves into a corner. This whole storyline was a result of two different writers and there's editors involved. and all that. And so it's hard to say whose ideas got us into this exact position, but like
I I'm not
it just
happy.
Sissy wasn't good.
It wasn't. I don't feel good about reading Sonic comics right now. So
No.
yeah, that's that should probably just be our review. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry, it's kind of ending on a downer note, but that's the comic we read,
Yeah.
and
When is the next one scheduled to come out?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can look it up. Um, this is unprofessional, but so is how this comic went anyway. So
I mean, I don't think it's actually unprofessional to look things up. People do that all the
okay,
time on live streams.
February 8th, issue 57 will come out, and it'll come out.
Yeah. So, we're actually doing this stream a day earlier than we would because tomorrow is a busy day.
Yeah,
Um, so expect us to stream on the 9th as we would normally do for the next issue. I probably won't be sick
yeah.
then.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how everything goes.
Yeah,
But please feel free to follow us on Twitch. We try to stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you're watching from the YouTube VOD channel, which is linked to our Twitch profile, you can leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Closely reads the comments.
mm-hmm.
And if you want to catch us live, there's links in the description of every VOD for our Twitch profile, which you can follow and all that stuff. Till next time, I'm Felicia Rondo. That's close over there.
Hey,
Bye.
bye bye.